Hello, welcome to another episode of Getting Started with p5.js. Today we're talking about for loops. So imagine a scenario where you need to draw or do something multiple times. How would you do it? Let's say if I want to draw a circle many different times. Let's try to draw the same circle at different positions. Let's say we draw the first one at maybe 50 and at the center vertically 200, and then draw this as 100. So I have one first circle, and let's say I want to draw another circle, 150, 200, 100. Okay, and then let's say if we want to draw another circle, 250, 200, 100. Okay, and I want to draw another circle, right? And then 350 and 200 and 100. Okay, this might seem not too bad because we are drawing full circles. But imagine in a scenario where you need to draw like 10 circles or 100 circles or 1,000 circles. Then this has become very tedious to type them out all up. And that's where the for loops comes in. And for loop is it can be used to do a certain task repetitively but with small changes. So in this case, let's rewrite this a little bit. Try to organize this and see. So all the 200 are the same. And let's use some variables. Let y equals to 200 because all of the y are the same. And then let d equals to 100. All that is the same. So this I'm going to change to y, y, y. Change this to d, 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 diameter. Okay. And then this over here, 50, 150, 250, 350. How can we make it so that it's organized? Let's introduce this variable. First, let x start with 50. Great, so that's 50. And then this is kind of x plus 100. And this is x plus 200. And this is x plus 300. Okay? So that's exact same thing, but we kind of keep things organized. And if we, one other thing we can do is that, so every time we're changing by 100, so we can, other way we can do this is that x equals to x plus 100. And then remove this. Great, the same thing. Oops, what happened? Oh, right. And that's already where something happens because we are changing the x. So x become 200. So this is 200, and by now x already is 400. So anyway, so let's remove these things. Okay, and then the next one, x essentially will increment by 100 again because we want to add more. Because when we use x equals something, that kind of changes x permanently, or like for the duration of the rest of this draw loop. Yeah. So every time essentially we are adding 100, adding 100, adding 100, and this in fact can be written in a for loop. And let's try to do that together. So for loops look like this. So we're starting at x equals to 50. Which is where we started at over here. And then there's some condition, which I'll explain in a second. So 400. And then in between what happens, x equals to x plus 100. Okay, so this is kind of the for loop version of what we did over there. And then we can copy, or let's just type this out, circle, x, y, and d. So that's the exact same thing. So now I don't need this anymore. I can delete these. And it does the same thing. Because it starts at, so the first circle is 50. That's why it starts at 50. And then every time it increment x by 100. So it moves to the right by 100. And it kind of increment all the way until x reaches a certain number. And that is defined by this condition over here. X is smaller than 400. So that is to say, as long as x is smaller than 400, let's keep increasing. For instance, if I do 300. So what this happens is, let's kind of type this out. X started with 50, and x becomes 150, and now x become 250, and then after that x will become 350. But because 350 is larger than 300, is not, or in other words, is not smaller than 300, so this is not valid. That's why these are the three values that are used. This is also why if you put 400, we can actually include this possibility, and that's why we have 4 circles across the canvas. So now, what if we want to draw more circles? And that's where this has become really handy. So if we want to draw more circles, maybe, for instance, we want to start. So this, let's just start with. Don't worry about the starting point or the end point. We can kind of adjust the increment. So every time I only increment by 10. So now we have a lot of circles. Of course, they're overlapping. That's because we're moving only by 10. So if this number matches the radius, that's when we have like perfect amount of circles. And then this is because of the starting point. So essentially, one thing we can do is we're always starting at the diameter, and then we're ending at x smaller than 400, and then every time we are incrementing by the diameter. So that's one way you can, if you want to have like even amount of circles. But of course, it started with diameter, which is right here. Yeah, that's the diameter, and we can take a look over here. So this is the canvas, and if we, because we're starting at a diameter, this is a diameter, d, and this part is also diameter. That's why it's like a little off. If we want to start right against the edge, then we should start with half of the diameter right here. I hope it's a little small. I don't know why I drew it so small, but I hope you can see it. Yeah. So if we want more circles to kind of fit nicely across the corner of the canvas, then we can start with half of d, and then end with 400. Or if we want to be precise, that should be 400 and divided by d. And that, actually, that there was an interesting error. So I don't need this because, or if I do add this, I should probably add equal sign, because that is to say it should be equal. So essentially, you just want to make sure that x is smaller, within the range, so I can just do x is smaller than 400. Okay, and so that's what we have here. We have multiple circles, and then now I can simply adjust the number 40, 50. I can adjust number, and I can always have perfect amount of circles across the screen. Okay, and so this is not relevant anymore if this is a different number. So this is for loop, and in fact, if I don't remember if I've copied anything since, but so I actually before I started, I copied the face function we wrote in a previous episode, and now instead of circle, we can replace the circle with the face function. So the face function we wrote, so now we don't need to write the face function again. We can simply copy and paste from the previous sketch. So x, and then it needs both width and height, so I'm going to use d for both width and height. Now the circles becomes the faces, and again we can do the same thing for the faces as well. So we have different amount of faces, and that's where the for loops can be really handy to when we want to create multiples of the same thing but with small changes, and that's how we can organize them. This again, it's separated by semicolons. So the first section is where we begin, the value we're beginning, and then the second section is a condition under which the number is valid, and then lastly, what happens within each iteration. And this is actually not this is one way we can write this, but there's another kind of common way that you can write this. is to use. I'm going to, yeah, I'm going to maybe. Should I create a new sketch? Yeah, let's duplicate this. Create new for loops. Um, I guess I'll call this conventional. This is just because um, a lot of time people like to write it that way. So we can change this a little bit, this for loop. We can start with I equal to 0 and I smaller than a number, which is the number of circles we want to draw. So I'll define that variable. So faces number equals to maybe 10. So this is smaller than faces number. And then I equals to I plus 1. Okay. So in this case, we are using, and then of course I don't need this anymore. So in this case, we are using I essentially as a counter. That's counting starting from a number and all the way until another number. So faces number will dictate how many times or how many times we are counting. Because we're starting from 0, when we count 10 times, it's all the way from 0 to 9 every time we increment by 1. And that incrementation can also be a different number as well. But of course, now I don't have the y anymore. Then we need to calculate the y based on the I in this case. So what I can do is y or x is equals to I times the diameter. Yeah, that's how we have it. But the diameter right now, in fact, they're kind of not matching up. Let me explain what I meant. So 3. So I mean, we can do this to change the number, but like if you want to have the form that's across the screen, then the diameter also needs to dynamically change based on the number of faces. So instead of having the diameter there, we can calculate the diameter. So let d equals to the entire width of the canvas divided by the number of faces. Okay, and then x, we also wanted, because it kind of started with 0, so we also want to move the entire thing to the right, like add offset to the right. So then we can add d divided by 2, so add a radius. So this is another way to write the same thing, where we can adjust a number like so. So 110 or even 100, that's probably too small to see anything. 20 or yeah, I'll leave it at 10 for the example. Yeah. So now this presents another way to write a for loop where you change the number here and use this I as a counter, and then calculate the x based on this counter variable I, and it does the same thing. Yeah. So and either way really works. Whatever in your scenario, whatever that works best for you. And this is a for loop, and now you can draw a repetition of things. And I really hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you.